Varsity House Podcast here with Carl Jones. We just gonna freestyle it. We're gonna talk about some football, of course. That's the only thing going right now, and so the best season out. And I want to get off my chest what I see a lot on Twitter and what I see a lot on social media right
Get it
now
off your chest. Get it off your chest, big dog. Get it off
is
your chest.
is the shaming and disrespect and the looking down upon two coaches that have left Notre Dame. Tommy Rees being one, Brian Kelly being the other. Both great coaches, both great people. Obviously, everyone has their own opinions. That's my opinion. But all I see on Twitter and X, social media, whatever, is Notre Dame fans just going in on Tommy Rees for leaving Notre Dame because there was quote unquote better talent down there, or Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame because there was quote unquote better talent down there as well. And they're saying, oh, look what Notre Dame has. Look what Marcus Freeman is doing. And by the way, love Marcus Freeman, love Notre Dame, was just there this past weekend. Went to Friday's walkthrough. Team looked great. They got the guys was ready. They locked in. Coaches all locked in. So I'm not disrespecting Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. Love the guys. I'm rooting for them all year round or all year long. Want them to go to national championship, win the national championship, of course. But my thing is seeing all this is like, you guys are talking down upon two teams or two coaches that have lost to Texas, who very well could end up in the college football playoffs. Outside of Oklahoma, I could see them winning the Big 12 and heading to the college football playoffs. Quinn Ewers, the throws he made in that Alabama game, ridiculous. Like if you watch the game or even if you check the highlights out, if you look at that rainbow bomb that he threw, it was like I don't like that's an Aaron Rodgers type throw. Like it was pretty, it was amazing, and it was just right on point. Dropped him right in the bucket, right for a touchdown. But Alabama goes and lose to Texas. Not NC State, not Navy, not TSU, not Central Michigan, who they play this weekend. So it's like we're looking down upon these previous coaches after playing, a top 5 team, a top 10 team with first round caliber talent. I don't think Notre Dame has seen first round talent yet. They will on September 23rd when they play Ohio State. But I feel like until then, Notre Dame should just appreciate that the team is playing hard. The team is physical. Our quarterback looks great. He's making all the throws that he's supposed to make. We're beating the teams that we're supposed to beat, and we're playing how we're supposed to play. But, I feel like there's just a little bit of gas there. And then Brian Kelly losing to Florida State. I think Florida State wins the ACC. Obviously Clemson's a good team. Duke is, a good team. But I just think Florida State has the most, manpower, most talent in that conference, and I think they'll run away with it, at the end of the day. And so when you lose to a Texas team, second game of the season, when you lose to Florida State, the first game of the season for LSU, I mean, there's things to build off of. Like Alabama, they aren't out of the college football playoffs by any means. LSU is not out of the college football playoffs by any means. Those are two great losses to have early. Two great losses to learn from. So, I mean, I get it. I'm a Notre Dame fan too, but like I feel like I'm realistic when I view Notre Dame, and I think Sam Hartman is dialing up, like he's dropping dimes, dissecting defenses, and so I'm not saying like, oh, let's not be happy about Notre Dame, but like let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's realize who we play. Let's realize who we got this weekend. Let's just let's stay healthy, throughout these games. Build some, some chemistry with the team, the coaches, because we got some new coaches in the building, and just continue to grow together, gain confidence, because we'll need it September 23rd. We'll need it the following weekend when we got Duke. I think we go on a bye week, then we got USC. So like these first 4 games for us are building that chemistry, building that discipline, building that that confidence. And so I don't want to get overboard and say, oh my gosh, like screw those coaches that left us, because now they're looking back at us and they wish they could have stayed. It's like, yeah, I'm sure they wish they could have been 2-0, 3-0, but like it's not over with. They still got LSU, got Alabama left. They got who they got left? Auburn. They got Florida. They got all these teams left in the SEC. So if like they went out get to the SEC championship again to play Georgia and beat Georgia, obviously it's a hard task. But if they all do it, no one's going to remember that loss against Florida State at all. And so, and same with Alabama. They got the same, SEC schedule. They went out, played Georgia in the SEC championship. No one's going to remember that's Texas lost. And so my thing is just pump the brakes a little bit. I'm excited. We look good. Now, I think what I'm looking at, if we don't make the college football playoffs, I'm going to be upset. If we don't beat Ohio State, I'm going to be upset. And so that's the way I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, I like where we're going. I like where we headed. I like our quarterback. I like, the direction that we headed in, but let's pump the brakes on the gas a little bit because we do have Ohio State. We have Duke. We have USC, Stanford. We lost to Stanford last year. Obviously, it's a, little rivalry game. So there's teams on the schedule that could potentially that will 100% be better than the teams that we have played so far. And so, let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. That's all I wanted to get off this Monday morning. We had some other plans, but I was like, you know what? Let me just get this off my chest Monday morning. We'll drop this, let the fans hear it. I'm sure I'm going to get some slack because they'll probably be like, oh my God, you hate Notre Dame. No, I love Notre Dame. I love what they're doing. I love Sam. I love the whole team. I love what we looking like. I love it. I haven't seen, Sam Hart. I haven't seen a quarterback at Notre Dame dialing it up like this. Audric Estimate. I didn't know he had the speed to take it 80 yards. And so now I'm even more excited about what he can do. And then the defense, I thought this was going to be the first time the defense saw a Power 5 team with some talent on the other side. And they stepped up. Ben Morrison had an interception, and of course he balled out, of course. And so I think I'm excited. That's all I say. I'm excited, but I'm not going to, go a little bit overboard and gas our team up just to put other people down. Because like I said, LSU has played a top 5 team already. Texas has played Alabama has played a top 5 team already. Notre Dame hasn't played a top 50 team yet. So, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's coming. It's coming. Like, we're going to have our day on September 23rd when Ohio State comes to Notre Dame. And I want that same energy, same gas and whatever, because I was at the game last year. I was devastated when we lost because I thought we were going to win that one. But this is the year we beat Ohio State. And that's where I'm at. And if we lose Ohio State, they better expect them LSU fans. They better expect them Tommy Rees Bama fans to be on us. But I got us winning whatever. That's my prediction. You already know that. But I just had to get that off my chest today, Monday morning. Happy Monday. Have a great week. Like after that, but that's all I had to talk about.
My boy was preaching on a Monday. God, no, boy, took him up to church today, didn't he? No, yeah, I feel it's funny though because the AP poll came out, and I believe Florida State is 3 and Texas is 4. I didn't know that there's like shame in losing the top 5 teams in college football. Like teams supposed to run the table, not like only one team get to run the table, and like you alluded to, Alabama and LSU still control their own destiny. Like they lost to an out of conference team. So like they win out, like they get the, still have a chance to go to the playoff. And you know how much they love the SEC. They might sneak 2 teams in there, whoever knows. So it's just like, ain't no shame in losing to those teams, especially that Florida State team. I will make the argument they've looked the best out of anybody else in the country this year. That win against LSU was that was some real grown man stuff they did. It wasn't just the score. I think it was the way they did it, especially in that fourth quarter. And then obviously the talent that they have. I mean, what Keon Coleman did, for those at home, he's going to get drafted. That's a Sundays player. That's a first-round player. He hurdled somebody, made a couple of dudes miss, broke some tackles on the way to another touchdown. I think he up to like 4 tutties on the year, if I'm not mistaken, that Florida State receiver. So, I mean, regardless, Bama will be all right. And it was funny, and I'm not as tuned in with Tommy Rees as you are. That's also not the same Alabama team talent-wise that's been there in the past. So, like, kind of comparing what Rees is dealing with as what Lane Kiffin had to deal with, or Steve Sarkisian is kind of doing an injustice to Tommy just because he's not working with Bryce, or he's not working with Derrick Henry, or the litany of first-round receivers that they have. So it might take some time to get some chemistry in the gel a little bit, because if Jalen Milroe the best they got, then they're gonna have to really work through some things and make it work, because he's not the same caliber of quarterback that Bama has had in the past. But I mean, fans gonna be fans, and I mean that's what makes the sport so great, is because the enthusiastic passion that the outsiders have. But it do get annoying sometimes, especially someone like yourself or ourselves who've been on the inside and know like the realism of it. Like we are fans at this point, but you also do understand that. All right, man, let me step back for a bit and let me really Because even as the biggest Browns fan on the planet, and I know we trash, but you're a little bit of a realist, and you're like, all right, I understand where things coming from to a certain extent. But yeah, the Golden Domer's gonna chirp. It's cool. We'll see what they still chirping September 24th, what they feeling like Sunday morning.
Facts. Now, also, I checked out Syracuse schedule. Syracuse had 2 great games to start the season off, undefeated, 2-0, always a goal. Now they got a Big Ten opponent, Purdue. I haven't checked out Purdue this year, but obviously, similar situation. First time playing after playing, Wagner, or no, not Wagner, after playing Colgate and then playing Western Michigan, dominated both teams. That's what they're supposed to do. They beat Colgate 65-0, Western Michigan 48-7, what they supposed to do. Now they go on the road to play Purdue at night too. So kind of if you've looked at it, I haven't looked at it yet a little bit, but obviously you could just knowing the caliber of teams, like this is an ACC Big Ten matchup. So obviously the talent on the field will be different than a Western Michigan, different than a Colgate. And so kind of just touch on that game real quick. And also as a Syracuse fan, as a Syracuse alum, former player, how have you viewed the first 2 weeks of the season so far?
I think the first 2 weeks of the season have gone great. I mean, there's nothing worse than not taking care of business the way you're supposed to do it. Because I'm a big believer, and we've talked about this off air ad nauseum. You only can control what's in front of you. So when you speak of Notre Dame's schedule, they haven't played the greatest teams, yeah, but they've dominated the teams in front of them. So there's nothing to knock them for. Syracuse has been the same way. I believe we've only given up 7 points on the year. I think we're like second in the country in terms of points allowed. I get it; they ain't played nobody, but taking care of Western Michigan in the way they did, who is, albeit a Group of 5 team, and probably won't be at the top of the MAC this year. But they lost Arondé Gatson, their best player on the team, like that. I'm sure you've seen the number 19, the tall, like 6'5" tight end wide receiver hybrid they had. Lost him early on in the game, I believe first drive. Still found a way to put up 31 points in the first half. That shows to the depth they have, the receiver. Garrett Schrader, the quarterback we got, he's a solid dude as well, dual threat. We looking all right. I think it'll be a huge test going at Purdue. I mean, these are college kids. I don't care like who you are. You going on the road, it's tough. I mean, it's human nature for the game to be a little bit tougher. Big help that Purdue does not have Aiden O'Connell this year, who's doing his thing with the Raiders this year, balled out in the preseason. Also don't have Charlie Jones, either receiver, who I believe lit us up last year for like 100 plus. So barring that they don't have another NFL quarterback waiting in the ranks, that helps out a ton in terms of the talent discrepancy. But no, the defense has been balling. The defense has been great, honestly, since Babers has gotten there. I believe back-to-back weeks with pick sixes. So I'm excited. It's going to take care of business here will be good. Army will be another tough game going against that triple option. But I would love to go into ACC play 4-0 because, boy, it's a bit of a doozy once we get into ACC play. I believe we got Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, and then VTech. Like just 3 straight road games. That's a damn schedule right there. And I know Clemson is not the Clemson of old, but anytime that Dabo gets to play against Babers, it's personal. We've always had their number over the years. Florida State, as we just alluded to, is pretty darn good. And then North Carolina has Drake May. Forget what they just did to Appalachian State. So I like what I'm seeing so far, but we got to continue to build upon it. Purdue will be a very, very tough test.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing we talked about too. You mentioned North Carolina playing Appalachian State. Appalachian State almost got them.
Stop scheduling them
and played them in overtime. And that's kind of what we were talking about, or what I was talking about earlier. Is like you schedule these, Power 5 teams, these potential, college football playoff teams early on in the season, where you can make the argument that it's great for media. It's great for the hype of college football season and things like that. Like it's something to look forward to in the off season, but not for Notre Dame because they're independent, but for, a school like Syracuse or just any school in the conference like Florida State or Alabama, Texas, like, is there really a point to schedule these tough games early on in the season? Now, like I said, like, don't think about, the hype. the motivation to get the guys going early into the season, maybe get to go on the road and play out of Texas, play out of Bama, play at a neutral site, do all those things. Those are cool. Don't get me wrong. But for the program and for wins and for maybe confidence in the season and definitely fan base opinion, like I feel like Notre Dame right now is like on cloud nine. We have 3 wins. We've blown out every single team. I think that's what a fan base want. But there were years that we scheduled Texas week 2 or scheduled Texas week 1. We scheduled Michigan week 2. We scheduled Florida State week 1. We've had those hard games. We've won some, we lost some, but it's like, is it worth it to have those tough games? And so that's a question that I want to ask you, and also a question that I want to ask our audience, because it's like, would you rather see your team go out there before conference play and just dominate, get the wins, have confidence in the team, confidence in the coaches, build chemistry, and then you go into conference play and it's like it is what it is? Or would you rather have that explosive week 1 Monday night, Sunday night type game where you're the only game on college TV, and where if you do play bad, you will be exposed, you will be talked about? But there also is a good side too. It's like, well, you can make some money that game, you can become a household name that game, and pros and cons to each. But I want to ask you, like, what's your thoughts on scheduling those tough out of conference teams week 1, week 2, week 3? Is there any benefit to it in the long run?
In the long run, I do think it's a benefit. Now, let me preface it by saying college football don't have preseason, so it kind of sucks. And you can kind of tell throughout these first 3 weeks of football where it's a lot of rust. I mean, you watching that Florida State LSU game really didn't start getting crisp until the second half. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's opening week, a lot of emotions flying around. That Clemson Duke game was sloppy as hell. There's a bunch of sloppy games so far, and due in large part, there's no preseason. This is the first time that you see another team. It's not like you even get joint practices like you do in the NFL. Like, this is the first time you see someone else with other colors. So that does suck. Having said that, though, I just think of the recruiting aspect of it. I know that for these big games, when you have these recruits on the sideline for these massive matchups, like I know that Texas-Bama game, Texas and Bama are competing for the same recruits now. They're both in the SEC starting next year. So the fact that Texas was able to go into somebody else's building and still, you're not going to steal all the Saban's recruits, obviously, but if you were able to change the opinion of just one kid, that might have been worth it. Just one kid, and now that one kid turns into 2, and then 2 turns into, now we've ruined the Saban empire. So it's tough. It's really, really tough because, like you said, it can derail a season quick, like real quick. You take one of those bad L's on opening weekend. I remember when Bama crushed USC the one year. That was bad. Like that did them boys dirty. Came out the tunnel all rah-rah, all that good type of stuff, and then Jalen Hurts just smacked them boys upside the head. So it really can derail your season quick. I can't think of the other team that this happened to recently where they had a early season big matchup and then took an L and then just nosedive from there. So you got to make sure you got a mentally strong team. I know you schedule these games out far in advance. You would like for it to be a veteran team, a team who's mature enough to handle a big hoopla game early on in the season, because with a bunch of young boys, taking an L there early might be over with. So it's some pros and cons to it. I think from the administration standpoint and the football staff, they don't mind it per se, just because the attention that you do get playing, especially a standalone game. It's like an NFL game to a certain extent, right? Like no one's watching anything else but y'all. Like it's like a Sunday night football or Monday night football type vibe. So I see the pros and cons. As a player, I probably would have hated it just because, like, I'm trying to ease into some things, man. It's the first time I get to hit somebody else, and this game can have ramifications for the playoff. Like, damn.
Yeah. Before we get to, we definitely got to talk about Colorado, but before we get to Colorado, staying on Texas a little bit, Quinn Ewers, we talked about him. We watched him do his thing over the weekend against Alabama. I wonder if Ohio State fans are wondering, dang, like he's supposed to be in scarlet and gray. He's supposed to be up in Columbus, Ohio, throwing dimes and, making the plays that we all saw him make Saturday night. I wonder if they thinking, man, he's supposed to be making those plays in the scarlet and gray for Ohio State. And you look at it because it's like, dang, don't get me like Kyle McCord. I personally didn't watch the game, but Youngstown State did hang around. I saw there was some blown coverages that he got one off to Marvin, and you can't say, that doesn't count because there was a blown coverage or whatever. Like, it's football. Things happen. He made a play. Marvin, got loose. It was good to see him obviously get in the end zone. And then, Emeka Ibuka, is that how you pronounce his name?
Mm-hmm.
He had a great game. I think they awarded him like team MVP or something that game. So he played well. So it was good to see their star receivers making plays and doing their thing. I think they only held them to like maybe 7 points. So the defense that I think is just not as powerful, not as explosive as we've seen Ohio State in the past. And part of that could be due to Kyle McCord, but having Kyle McCord there now, I wonder if having that run of Fields, having that run of Stroud maybe hurt them right now, because if you didn't have those guys, Quinn would have stayed, and he would have been able to wait, or not even wait, but get on the field early, and then go through some growing pains and things like that, and now be the explosive player that he is now at Texas. And so I wonder, like, if Ohio State fans, like, obviously they remember he was in the building, they remember like that he was on campus on the team and those things, and I'm sure they're probably like, dang, like I wish we had Quinn. But looking now at it, is like it's sometimes tough having that CJ Stroud come in as a freshman in ball, or as a sophomore in ball, and then and then junior year in ball, and then things like that, because you miss out on a guy that really want to play. He don't have time to sit around, and that might be an interesting thing for Archie Manning too, by the way. But you don't a guy that nowadays dudes don't want to sit, dudes don't want to wait, dudes don't want to wait their turn. They don't, it's that Jordan Love type of thing. It's in college football. It's like, shit, I'm getting this NIL money. I get on the field, I get more NIL money. I go somewhere, go crazy for 1.5 years, 2 years. I'm to the league. I don't want to sit behind, because you sitting behind CJ Stroud. Like, you're gonna get some blowout minutes, things like that. But it's like, I don't want to sit behind CJ Stroud for 2 years. Let me go to Texas. Let me go back to the crib. Let me, put on, it's team probably solid. We're gonna have some guys. And then now he get to that third year, and it's like, okay, now we got Worthy, we got some other, Bijan just left, but we replaced him, and now they got some ballers on the team. And so, as a fan, as someone in the locker room, as someone in the locker room, I understand it, because it's like, Ohio State, they get the top of the top, and sometimes you're gonna have that quarterback that come in who thinks they can compete with the starting quarterback, and turn out that they can't. Not everyone's going to be a Joe Burrow where they wait around till graduation and still try to compete for the starting job, and then I ultimately lose it and then transfer. Because if you look at that situation and say, like, hey, if Quinn had Joe's mindset, and also the transfer rule is different now, but if Quinn had that mindset, then now you get Quinn at the starting quarterback. He was behind CJ for 2 years, veteran dude in the locker room, and now he coming in, and I think Ohio State is Ohio State as we know it. And so obviously you got to look to the transfer portal a little bit because of that. And so maybe that ruined it. Maybe that's going to hurt some teams where they got a nice veteran quarterback who is clearly the starter for 2 to 3 years, where now you might not get a 5-star good backup. You may have to throw in a freshman first-time starter once that person graduates, once that person leaves. And so now I think it's going to hurt some teams for sure with this new transfer rule. And it's interesting to even talk about that with the whole Quinn and McCord situation, because it could have been very different. Transfer rules wait a couple years. He's still there, and Ohio State is Ohio State, and they explosive, and they doing what they doing. So I just wanted to bring that up, because I just wonder how many like fans are maybe mad at the transfer rule, mad at Quinn for leaving, or they understand, like, McCord really not supposed to be our quarterback. We had our guy Ryan Day did his job in recruiting, but hey, it is what it is now. So they're gonna
The one thing that's interesting about the Quinn thing, and you're 100% right too, and I'm not hyperbole when I say this. You can Google this as soon as I say it out loud. Quinn, I believe, is one of like 4 players ever to have a perfect recruiting score. Like, bro is like on 247, he has 1.00. That means he's a perfect high school prospect. That means one of the best players to ever come out of high school. So you get a prospect like that. Well, of course, I'm going to go all in, and maybe some of the other guys who are, I may recruit at that position. I'm not going to go as hard on because I got the guy. I got some generational prospect, right? But what messed things up with the timeline, I remember this like it was yesterday. Quinn skipped his senior year of high school. Like Quinn saw the writing on the wall with there was an opening at starting quarterback. So he said, forget this. I'm going to go ahead and compete. And I believe he enrolled just for the summer semester. And at that point, you knew who CJ Stroud was, but he was still competing with Kyle McCord, who was a true freshman. So like, oh, the job is wide open. Quinn, like, I'm that boy, I can do it. Well, obviously, CJ won the job and ended up having a great career. But when that happened, though, he realized that CJ had to stay at least 2 years. And if you Quinn, you're like, hold on, I'm that boy. Like, I could have waited 1, but 2? So then now he went back to the crib. So like to a certain extent, that's not Dave's fault. Like you the one that left high school early because if he didn't leave high school early, he would only have to sit 1 year, and that was kind of like the issue that they ran into. So yeah, I'm sure Ohio State fans are sick, but I mean, there's no one really you can be sick at. Quinn bet on himself; it didn't work out, and then Ryan Day is always going to take a commitment from the quote unquote best high school player of all time. I'm just excited, happy for him that it's worked out because I know last year he went through some lumps. You saw the talent; it just never really crystallized consistently. But like obviously we fans of the sport, fans of the game, and when you see players who clearly have the talent, I mean, you saw that damn throw. That as soon as he made the throw, I like texted y'all right away. I'm like, whoa. That was one of the ones. Right
it was either going to drop right in the bucket or it was just going to be completely a terrible pass. And because the ball left my screen. I don't know if it left your screen, but the ball was off the screen, and then when it returned, it just right in for a touchdown. And so, I think that's definitely interesting. I mean, there's a couple pieces. I forgot that he left high school early, but yeah. Because you look at that, he doesn't, he stays and he only sits behind CJ for 1 year, and now you back in that position of having that all-star quarterback that you used to having. So that's an interesting situation. I'm interested to see McCord play in a big game, obviously against Notre Dame coming up, and then the rest of the season. But I like this year, especially in the Big Ten, because at the end of the or last year, you always I could see Ohio State going to the Big Ten championship. I could see it coming down to that Michigan game. Obviously, they lost in Michigan last year; they didn't go, but I could see it was going to be those two teams in the fighting for that final spot at the end of the year. Now this year, I like Penn State. I like Aller. I like what he's doing. That's a Cleveland, Ohio guy. I like what he's doing. Michigan, they dominated their opponents also without Harbaugh. So interested to see what they do when he come back. And then Ohio State, Wisconsin, they doing all right. Fickle got them, playing Wisconsin football, nothing too crazy, but another tough team. And then Iowa, who's going to be a tough team for sure. And so I'm excited to see how the Big Ten play out this year. I think it's probably as even as it has ever been, and so I'm excited to see what goes on there. I hope we can spoil Ohio State's fun this year. Notre Dame, of course, but last topic before we hop off, we got to talk about Colorado. We got to talk about Deion and the job that he's doing. Deion and Colorado have played 2 games this year. I don't think I've missed a second of any of their games. So I'm like, I might, Notre Dame go up a certain amount. I might change the channel, might get off of it. Those big games, those Saturday night games, whatever, like, I might leave and just go, go for a drink at the bar or something like that, whatever. But now, or when Colorado is on, I'm tuned in. Ain't no commercial breaks, big. Ain't no food break. Ain't none of that. I'm locked in. If anything, food got to get brought to me. We're going to have to wait on the bathroom till halftime. But it's prime time TV. Like when you say, prime time Deion, like it's prime time TV. They got the stars out. I think you told me 800 media passes. Yes. 800 media passes is crazy. Like it ain't that much media people in the whole state of Colorado, first of all. So it was dope seeing, everybody come out to the game. It's dope seeing everybody want to support. Obviously, Colorado fan base, I know they going crazy. I know they having fun. The boosters, the alum, they going crazy. But this might have went a little bit unnoticed. Them Nebraska fans, I would love to see the comparison of Nebraska and the Buff fans because I that obviously the red is bright, and so it could look a little, it could look a little confusing, but that it was a ton of red in the bleachers, and so I'd be interested to see like what the numbers was because it kind of maybe looked like 70-30 on the TV screen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was even closer. But yeah, no, I think Travis is doing this thing. Shador, man, like I wasn't sold on him at all. Like preseason, like I thought he had talent, thought he was a good quarterback. I knew he had the work ethic, and I knew he was around the people to work on his technique, his mechanics, and things like that. But never really, watched enough of Jackson State to know what he was about. But bro, he's dealing. I mean, he doing his thing. And people talk about Travis, but they got tons of offensive weapons. The running back is crazy. The receiver with the dress, I forget his name, but he balling out. Horn is nice as a slot receiver. So they got guys, and then the defense, they making plays. I was actually very surprised with the trenches against Nebraska. I thought because they were playing a Big Ten team, Nebraska just played a physical game against Minnesota. I thought they was going to come out there and just be just as physical with Colorado. But again, I was wrong about the trenches. The trenches must be for real in Colorado. I went 2 weeks saying the trenches wasn't going to be right. Now I'm gonna say, I'm going the rest of the year. The trenches is gonna be right. And so they got a rivalry this weekend with Colorado State. So should be. I mean, I don't know Colorado State, but the way that they play this first week and then last week, they should handle them. And then week after that, they got a big one. They got Oregon at Oregon. So September 23rd, you already know I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be at Notre Dame, Ohio State, but if they put that game on early enough, I'm gonna definitely tune in. I'm excited. And then they got USC after that. Okay, so this that one more tune-up game that they got. The one more tune-up that they got, and one more like gas on the fire, I think, because after this weekend, next week you got Oregon, like I said, and then you got and then you got USC after that. It's gonna get real, and it could get really, really loud, meaning they come out of those one. If they come out 1-1, I think, man, it's still gonna get it's gonna be loud. When I say loud, I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the fan base. I'm talking about Dion, Shador. Like it's gonna be loud. Like they gonna be talking their stuff. So I can't wait for those two matchups. But I think what he's doing is inspiring a lot of people, and also maybe even inspiring some other former players who have an interest in coaching or already coaching. Like you look at Hugh Jackson was already in NFL and things like that, but you look at like an Eddie George who's at Tennessee State. Maybe get that program right. Maybe he make a move up to a Power Five. But you look at other coaches. We'll talk to Will Blackman later on this week, and a BC grad. He worked with the Cowboys this offseason, but it may be some other guys that are inspired to try the coaching route to try to recreate what Dion is doing. So I'm excited for the whole college football landscape. I mean, he took advantage of the transfer portal. He took advantage of NIL. And so, like, this could be the start of something new. And now people talking about Colorado football. And so, never thought about it, but hey, the bus is rolling. And all I need now is NCAA to be back because I already know who I'm rocking with. I'm rocking with 12-2. 12-2. 12 gonna have 200 yards on offense, 2 picks, couple tackles, and then 2 gonna have about 400 yards passing. So I'm excited for them. I think, like I said, I think what they're doing is special. It's fun. It's exciting. And honestly, with these first couple of weeks of football, like in college football, I would say they've been like you said, Florida State. I would say they have been one of the teams that have been, clicking on all cylinders and obviously been fun to watch. They've really brought a spark to college football early on this season. And so credit to Dion, credit to Shador and the rest of the team. I think they're doing amazing.
Yeah, what was so impressive about this past week against Nebraska, against TCU, they was rolling on offense, right? Like walk down the field, score, walk down the field, score, walk down the field, score. It wasn't like all sweet in the first half or a majority of that game for Colorado. They went through some lumps, got sacked, had to punt a couple times, but they still found a way. And I think that was really impressive because we coming out of week one, you're like, oh, they some real finesse team who nice when things are going well. You know, you got primetime son. You know he gonna be good when things is going right. But how is he gonna react when stuff hit the fan? And Shador was cool. Then on the other side of the pillow, shout out to my man Stu Scott. Like he was really just dialing things up back there. And to see them win a game that way, because I know I said I took the over for this because I'm like, yo, like Nebraska offense might be poo, but against Rado, they gonna at least get 20, right? Nah, got 14. Now, a lot of that had to do with the Nebraska quarterback. I'm not gonna diss my man while he already down. I'm sure he in the dumps about how he played, but he didn't play all too well, and Rado took advantage of that. But that's the way the games are played, and it is what it is. No, that was really impressive, and what was so dope about this Colorado story, and I don't want to make it about the coach too much, just because the kids are the ones out there playing. But very rarely do you get a legend of the sport who is that well connected with generations well after he got done playing. I never saw Deion play. I wasn't alive for it. And I know he played with the Ravens like in the early 2000s. I hate to break it to y'all. I was not watching football when I was 2 or 3. Wasn't watching it. But the fact that someone of his caliber, you know, like Jerry Rice isn't around the game anymore, or like Joe Montana's not around the game anymore. I mean, I know John Lynch is, but he's a GM. But the fact that like a guy who was that darn good is still disconnected with the game and you can touch him, like, you know, he's still giving you his thoughts. He still has an impact on the game directly is so damn dope to me. I mean, the fact that he runs out and these little kids are running out with Deion Sanders. Like, what? Do people realize how crazy that sounds right now? Like, imagine if Michael Jordan was still like connected with the NBA in some way, or he was connected with North Carolina in some way, like hands on. I know he was up and he was owning the team, but he was ducked away. He wasn't hands on day to day, visible for everyone to touch and see. Deion is really he's going on Pat McAfee, ESPN, Fox. He is really accessible to everybody, and that is so cool to see. Because, like you just said, that's so motivating for everyone else. Like someone like another coach who did play. Obviously, you didn't have the career that Deion had. No, you didn't. But the fact that you can say, oh, man, the fact that someone who talk like me, look like me, act like me, and still can be themselves and still be productive at this thing, I'm sure a lot of these administrators who might have been a little bit hesitant to pick a guy who was so braggadocious, they're like, oh, it worked. I mean, if he can recruit and, you know, be disciplined, it worked. Like I saw a thing that Joel Klatt said, and I think once he said it, he sounded crazy because he you don't throw his name out lightly. But the more I think about it, I'm like, yo, he can make a lot of sense. He was saying that Deion is more Nick Saban than you think, and he wasn't comparing it to the success that they had, but he was talking about like how structured and how like on top of things he is with his program and how on top of everything he is. I don't know if you've seen that clip of him talking trash in that golf cart to his players. Like Deion really like a drill sergeant out there, and like and he all you know talking trash, dandelions and roses to the media. He don't be playing about his kids. He on top of them. Like he really is. Like how many personal fouls they be committing? False starts. They really don't
No,
be on none of that.
they very disciplined, very disciplined.
Yeah, so it's dope to see, man. And like I said, you don't want to take away too much from the kids because they're the ones out there. But just like from my perspective, never saw Deion play. All I can hear is about how my dad talk about, oh man, you should have seen primetime play both ways. He can, you know, score a touchdown at 1 p.m. to hit a home run at 5. Like, yeah, all right, whatever. But seeing him do the things he's doing now as a coach is dope to see, man. We're very blessed to see it.
No, definitely. And also just as a player, for one, like you're gonna play hard. You're going to, you know, give it all you got because as a player in what college football is majority, you know, African American, being able to have that relationship with a player or with a coach like Deion, former player, who's done everything that you want to do. And that's the one thing where, you know, a lot of people always get on media personalities be like, oh, he never played the game, he never did this, did that. And same with coaches. Some coaches maybe never played the game, some coaches maybe never played at the collegiate level, NFL level, and then also at Deion's level, like which is another level. And so to have that as an example, as a leader, I mean, it gotta motivate you just a little bit more. It gotta make you do that. If coach is saying like 30 gashers or something, like coach saying 30 gashers for a reason. Like my coach at Notre Dame or my coach somewhere else saying 30 gashers, like yo, you ain't even do this. Like how 30 gashers gonna get me to the league? But Deion say do 30 gashers. I bet I'm gonna do 30 gashers. So is I'm sure it's an issue, and I definitely want to try to get out there because I think it's something special, regardless of wins and losses is obviously dope, and I think that's how he'll be judged. But I want to see the day in and day out type of structure and organization that he has with that program, because you don't just go out there and go 2-0, beat the former college football playoff team just because you got some talent.
It's
Because
not
you
as
got
flashy as like people think it is. I guarantee you, like it's well run in there, and like they locked in at all times.
right. And so you don't do that just because you got transfers, just because Deion's a coach, just because superstars are flying into the game. Like superstars are flying into the game, and you're playing a Big Ten team. There was no letdown. Like they played even better, and so I was like, are you sure you want all these eyes on you? Like eyes are already on you as far as TV. Fox Big Noon Kickoff was there, so eyes are already on you. But now you add fuel to the fire, and you're bringing more pressure onto yourself. And the way they handled it is like it's crazy. And so I'm gonna definitely try to reach out and get one of the media passes, because it seemed like they're giving them out. So so eventually, maybe I think they on the road for Oregon, but they home
USC.
for USC. So if they giving media passes out, I might have to reach out and try to get one. So but they got Oregon State at home too eventually, and then Stanford. But yeah, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to see what's up with Deion, see what's up with Prime. So, but even and quickly before we get off, like even being able, I played in the Under Armour game in high school, and Deion was one of the coaches. He was the opposite DB coach, and we had Herm Edwards. But being able to be around Deion and be around Herm Edwards, it was like and this was a high school. I'm 17-year-old kid, so of course I'm soaking everything up. But it's just like in that moment, if he had told me just to run 100-yard gashers and whatever, and take this step as a corner, take this read as a corner, especially as a corner, but even as a receiver, like do this. This is what a corner is looking for. This is what a DB is looking for. It's like I'm dialed in. I'm going to listen to that. And so obviously he can't preach on O-line play or maybe linebacker play or quarterback play, but he has people within his building that can, talk to that, talk to those positions and things like that. And so credit to the assistant and position coaches as well, because I think they don't get enough credit as that's due. And so what started off as something that was supposed to be completely different this morning, we turned it into a nice little college football conversation. So we do have another episode coming this week. It'll be featuring Will Blackman, who is a 12-year NFL vet. He is a Boston College grad, Super Bowl champion with the Giants, and now he is self-proclaimed NFL wine guy. So he's a wine connoisseur. Played for a bunch of teams throughout the NFL. Played with Rodgers, played with Favre, Charles Woodson, played with some greats, Eli Manning. The list goes on, and so we'll be excited to have him on later this week. Continue to subscribe to Varsity House Podcast, follow all of our channels, Varsity House Podcast, and continue to share, support. We got some merch. We got this hat on the merch site. We got some Varsity House stuff, some T-shirts, also some other hats on the website. So make sure y'all check that out, support. Appreciate y'all's love. Continue to support and also give us some feedback. I talked heavily about Notre Dame early on in the show. Please give me some feedback on what you think. I'm probably gonna get some heat for it, but hey, I'm happy we win. I'm happy we undefeated, but I just want to let's be realistic a little bit. Let's not forget what Tommy Rees did for us. Let's not forget what Coach Kelly did for us, and let's remember that it's only week 3 into the season, and so a lot more football is ahead of us, is ahead of them, and so we'll see what happens, after September 23rd, because that's I believe our first real test that we'll see the talent maybe that these coaches have left for. So excited. Appreciate you tuning in. Varsity House Podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Crawford, co-host Carl Jones. Thanks again.